Welcome everyone to this webinar. Thank you for joining us on a great discussion that we've been planning for you today. It's about how a team work innovation and how to build teams that can thrive in post-pandemic. This webinar is organized by Brightline, which is a project management institute initiative dedicated to help organizations bridge the gap between the strategy that they design and its delivery, and more specifically, how to help organizations in their transformation initiatives. Today, we are joined, and we are actually very thankful to have them with us, by Stefano, Mastrogiacomo, and Alex Osterwalder. And they are the authors of High Impact Tools for Teams, and they will share with us some key lessons regarding how teams are working during this pandemic. They'll present a new generation of simple tools to improve team performance and share insight on how to balance on-site and team remote work. We all know the challenges that we've been experiencing and what we've been going through for the past year now, and how we can thrive in this. Let me also say a few words in introducing Alex and Stefano. Alex is a leading author, entrepreneur, and in-demand speaker whose work has changed the way established companies do business and how new venture gets started. He's ranked number 4 among the top thinkers worldwide, and also is also a Thinkers 50 award winner. Of course, together, for many, I know the book, I've seen the book, for many who know, together with Yves Pigneur, he invented the business model canvas, the value proposition canvas, and the business portfolio map. These are all practical tools that many millions of people and practitioners are using to be successful in the endeavors. I'll move on and introducing Stefano, and he's a project management professor and author and advisor. Of course, he has a passion for human coordination, and he's the designer of team alignment map, the team contract, the fact finder, and other tools presented the high impact tools for teams that will be seen and presented with Alex in the next few minutes or so. He has been leading several digital projects and advising project leaders and teams in international organizations for more than 20 years. When you talk about Stefano's work, you can think about project management, you can think about change management, evolutionary anthropology, and design thinking. Last but not least, he's doing the work at the University of Lausanne and at EHL. So please, let's welcome both Alex and Stefano for this great session, and to be interactive. So we encourage you to participate, we encourage you to engage, and we hope by the end of this, you will have some learnings that just after the hour, you'll be able to apply.
Thank you, Tahiru, for having us. Thank you also, Yavnika, for making this possible, and Daniela for kind of hosting us here on Zoom. So we're going to talk about teamwork innovation, and I'm just going to, we already had the intro, so not more to lose on myself and on Stefano. So thank you for the nice introduction. So now we have to deliver, right? And, it's in the context of this a new book that we published in the Strategizer series that is called High Impact Tools for Teams, and is really a beautiful extension, right, from what we have done to before. We were really focused on innovation, transformation, but we never really went into the execution part of how do you actually align teams and how do you scale that throughout an organization. So this was the perfect opportunity. Stefano and I know each other for a long time, like I think 2 decades, but it's the first time we worked together on a book. So very briefly, today's takeaways. So the first one, you're gonna get some lessons related to this project learned for the post-pandemic teamwork, and I'm going to hand that over to the specialist, to Stefano. I'm going to give you maybe some insights at the end of how we use it at Strategizer. You're going to discover these new team tools that are complementary to everything that exists. So I want to emphasize that because there are a lot of tools out there. So we think there's a little bit of a gap there. So these are additional tools that help you with some of the big challenges. And the last one, we're going to get you onto a online whiteboard app and map out actually in one of these tools. So whole thing, 60 minutes. Let's see how we are going to do. Now, why did I actually really get interested in this whole thing, around teams? Because the innovation journeys are pretty difficult and substantial, and they're very diverse. But the one thing, that's clear is that at the kernel of an innovation journey, you have a team that starts very small and grows over time. And if you don't have alignment there and coherence, it's not going to work. And the other aspect I would add is you also need to have a sound environment, like this, what Stefano is going to talk about, this psychological safety concept by Amy Edmondson, that without that, an innovation team will die, right? It's as simple as that. So with that, just last couple of intro words. We focused a lot at Strategizer on business models of a team, innovating business models, transforming business models, value propositions, and then this idea of a portfolio of innovation projects, but from the kind of big picture view. And now, this was really on the business model, products, and service aspect. With this new set of tools, we're able to really zoom in to the atomic, I would say the atomic element of success is the team. It's not the idea, there are enough ideas out there, right? It's the atomic element at the end of the day, is the team and the team's success. So with that, I'm actually going to hand it over to Stefano to get us started, and I'll join back in a little bit later. Stefano?
So the tools we will present today, just to give a bit of context, it's 5 new tools that we see as plugins. So they just work with if you're from Agile or from Waterfall approach, they work with any method. It's just tools to empower every team member in terms of creating alignment, building trust in the team, and communicating better, as this is crucial for innovation journeys. Now, if I look at my own path, in 2000, I was head of digital in a major financial institutions. And until today, where we delivered this book together with an amazing team at Strategizer, all the beautiful results I've been able to contribute to were the result of cross-functional teamwork. And the notion of being a successful team leader and a successful team member, I've just added remote in parentheses here, because has changed a lot over time. When I started, it was in the 90s, and we used to dress like that. And maybe if someone in the audience can guess the band that was new at that time, just type the name in the chat room. This was the ambience at the time. What band was this? No, it's not called Daft Punk. We got it super fast. It was the beginning of Daft Punk. And while I was listening to Daft Punk, I was starting my first projects. And project meetings, they look like that. If we were lucky, we had a flip chart in the room. If not, there was no flip chart. And all we had is the table and our notes. I remember installing Microsoft project on Windows 95. It was a pleasant experience. And of course, that's how we used to coordinate and manage our projects back at the time in these early days. Now I'm going to make a big jump in time and come 12 months ago. 12 months ago, just before the pandemic, this is what my experience of contributing to cross-functional teamwork looked like. So we had gone from the table to the walls. So we used a lot of paper. And these were a typical example of project meetings. Here you see one at Strategizer. Project management, the Agile, because I'm in digital mostly, that's where my background is. Agile had come and changed significantly our practices, so the tools had changed as well. And remote teamwork for me actually wasn't that digital. It was mostly about exchanging files via email and having some FaceTime and Skype phone calls from time to time. Now, 12 months later, today, here is what my experience of being a team contributor looks like. Project meetings have gone exclusively online. They run on Microsoft Teams or Zoom. And work is performed visually on digital whiteboards. Some are specialized, like the Strategizer app. Some are more generic, like Miro. My office has significantly changed, so I'm equipped for remote work now. Before that, all I really needed is my laptop. I was not equipped this way. And also, big surprise in terms of other tools I am using, there has been significant changes in the way we do project work and we coordinate over distance. So I completely switched from emails to channels, using applications like Slack, for example. Now, email, exchanging files via email has disappeared also completely. We are co-editing documents online. And to my surprise, also project work and coordination of activities, in my case, has moved from specialized apps, like those I mentioned before, to team apps, where the whole team, and I give here an example of Minder.com, but there are many others, I'll show you a list later, where it's becoming a collective responsibility. Actually, everyone can co-edit and contribute to the management of the team activities. Now, okay, big change in terms of tool and platforms and so on. But what's the point of multiplying communication channels if we don't use them efficiently? Before the pandemic, there has been a study run by Atlassian, the software company. Well, actually, they aggregated several studies online. If you Google, you waste a lot of time at work, you will find that infographic. And in that infographic, there is a piece of research that says that 50% of the meetings we used to run before the pandemic were considered as unproductive and a waste of time. And my experience online has been actually in the beginning, in the early stages, even worse than this 50%. You know, distance, okay, we have amazing technology there, but the primary communication channel for humans is face-to-face dialogue. That's where we're the best. You can Google media richness theory if you want to find out more about that. Actually, video conference, luckily, is the second best communication channel for us. But if it's not as effective as conversation, there are more barriers. And if these meetings are not structured, well, it becomes even more a difficult experience. And actually, also in terms of coordination and the future impact on project is problematic, because for us, definitely, the quality of meetings is a KPI for future problems. So high quality meetings lead to less problems, poor quality meetings lead to future problems. Now, to come back to the title of our webinar, what have we learned working with teams during the pandemic? And especially if we project ourselves after the pandemic, what are the best practices? So let me start with what I already mentioned. Use a digital board for joint complex problem solving. A winning combination. Just to mention, these are the typical 3 things we used to do to collaborate, like communicate, managing the project, and sharing some digital assets. You see here a whole list of application and platforms available. Definitely the new entrant during the pandemic is these digital whiteboards, whether they're specialized or generic. And meetings really have shifted now into this digital mode. And the winning combination here for us is also to double that with visual tools to design and focus meetings, to avoid going around in circles, especially when we have multiple participants online. So a winning setup, just to be very clear from the beginning, best practice we see is 1, of course, have an effective video conferencing system. 2, a digital whiteboard that suits to your team needs. And 3, structure meetings using tools and go visual. Talk is an incredible technology, but it accounts only for 7% in mutual understanding. If you double that with visuals, and also if you leave the camera on and you have the nonverbal behavior visible, you're growing the communication bandwidth. And that is super important in terms of aligning remotely. So let me make you a few demos of how we work in this setup and present you by the same time some of the tools that are in high impact tools for teams. The first is the team alignment map. Now, an innovation journey is a particular kind of journey due to the complexity of the task we're doing, the uncertainty, and the fact that as we progress, new information comes in all the time. So the need for alignment in this context, because it's so new, is greater than if we're entering into a project that we've already run in the past. The team alignment map is a simple poster, a co-planning tool, again, that you can integrate with your preferred method to clarify who does what, allocate resources very quickly together and in a dialogue space, and also to manage risks. Let me show you an example of how this works. So let's say our team wants to run an innovation sprint to test an idea. Let's call it idea number 3. And so basically we all sit in front of the poster, and the first thing to do is to clarify our mission. So run that innovation sprint and see if the idea has potential or not. We specify the period, and then we enter into the conversation that will create alignment and put us literally on the same page. And we realized over time that there are 4 key variables we have to discuss. So first, it's joint objectives. What do we intend to achieve together? And what is important here is to have that conversation together as a team and not doing ping pong, all together in the same moment. And sorry. And let's say we agree that we will design and run experiments. We will coach teams on the process, and we will ensure teams or team is set up and is driven forward. Now we've agreed on our joint objectives. These can be deliverables, sometimes it can be tasks. No problem, it's things we intend to do in the future. It's voluntarily under structured so that we can use what is common in our team. Once we have agreed on the joint objectives to achieve the mission, we move to joint commitments. And that's a very important part, because if we could do these things alone, we would do them. But let's make sure that we understand each other on who is contributing to what in our team. So the team discussed, and you see we place the joint commitments next to the joint objectives. So who is going to design and run experiments? We all agree as a team to do that. Who is going to coach teams on the process? Luckily, there is a strategizer coach in the room who is going to take care of coaching the teams, and the executive sponsor will take care of the third objectives. Now, alignment on these 2 variables is key, but it's not sufficient. We realize that, and this comes from psycholinguistics, I cannot develop too much here. However, the third important requirement is joint resources. All human activities consume resources. Right now, we're using time, electricity, and other devices. So for our innovation sprint, the team agrees that we need the Strategizer app online as a platform, that we require 15 man days that we don't have. So we change the color. The Strategizer app is in green. The 15 man days are in red because we don't have them. And also we need a budget of 10K that we miss. Once we agree on the joint resources, and here the idea of the discussion on the resources is really to think at 2 levels, is what do I need to do my part and share that with the team, and also consider us as a whole if there are team level requirements. Once this is done, the last element to align in our conversation is joint risks. It's to have that short discussion of what can prevent us from succeeding. And in our example, someone mentions, well, We have to design and run experiments. I see a risk that we cannot contact customers, and we do not dedicate enough time to this project due to the priorities we have each individually. Okay, we've just performed a so-called forward pass. Now we are on the same page on the collaboration ahead. A typical session of alignment can take like between 20 to 30 minutes, sometimes 1 hour if it's more complex. But now this forward pass makes it explicit. We've been discussing and negotiating, we've been aligning on what we do, and we stop presupposing what other people are doing. And that makes a big difference. But that's not enough. To close an alignment conversation, you see, we have problems. Actually, our teams is not in optimal conditions to succeed because we miss 15-man days, 10K, and we have these two risks open. So we must perform, there are little arrows in the bottom here, a so-called backward pass. And this is how it works. We take the problematic sticky notes and we transform them into joint commitments and joint objectives. So we miss 15-man days. Okay, the executive sponsor agrees to validate and allocate man days and budget. So all of a sudden, these three problems become addressed by this new objective and this new commitment. So we put in green the resources we now have, and we simply remove the risk from the last column. We've just done a live risk mitigation. The same for contact customers. Okay, we transform that into ask the customer success team to book clients time ahead, and the executive sponsor will have a lot of work in this project, and we remove the post-it notes. I heard from many teams that risk mitigation became a pleasant activity for them, as they had pleasure removing risks as they were mitigated live. So again, this does not replace, of course, professional risk mitigation, but at least some level of risk management is done by the team. Now, why does this work? If you come to one of our training, we will run you through experiences where we measure the performance between an aligned and a misaligned teams, and aligned and misaligned teams for the same task. Just think in your heads, what is the increase of performance between an aligned and a misaligned team before I show you the next slide? Just think, like, is it like 100, 200, 10%, 1,000? Okay, I imagine you have a number. So if you come to our trainings, you will measure this. So there is a 400% increase in performance on average and median. They're very close. And sometimes we measured up to 1,200% increase in performance. Now, what's the cost of that increase in performance? Efficiency is significantly accelerated and increases when we're aligned. Well, it just takes the time to discuss about the right things at the right moment in time. That's the cost to get this efficiency. And this efficiency comes from so-called common knowledge / shared knowledge, or also what is called in linguistics common ground. That's our engine for collective power. When we are on the same page, we see the same thing. That means that there are not so many perception gaps when we enter into a collaboration. Our execution or efficiency comes from the fact that we understand our part, but we understand also the part of the other members of the team. And when this is the case, we unconsciously and consciously align our contribution to others' people's contribution. And that's what we believe meetings are useful for, to divide the pieces of the work, understand where we're going, and integrating the parts. And that's the power of common knowledge when we are on the same page, the effect you can expect on team performance once you have it. Just to give a concrete example, this is not theoretical. When there was the first wave of the pandemic in March, Geneva University Hospital, this is the largest hospital in Switzerland, 2,000 beds, 11,000 employees. And if you work in healthcare, you know how strict that is and how security and procedures are important in the healthcare sector. Their mission was to become a dedicated COVID center in 5 days. And they succeeded. The case is largely documented on Strategizer's website. There is a case with an interview of the head of operations there. They managed it successfully using 2 tools, the team alignment map and Trello, and having the right people in the room, especially the top level heads of departments, because this was kind of a daunting task to be performed in a super short amount of time. That led us to a conclusion when we finalized that project with them. It's that alignment, institutional alignment, can occur at the speed of light when the senior leadership is aligned, just 5 days. Okay, before I move on to the next tool, I'd like to show you some ways of using the team alignment map. So if you work using a waterfall methodology, of course, the needle for alignment, which means the moment where the perception gaps are the greater, is in the beginning. So we typically use a team alignment map, an alignment map session at the beginning of the initiation phase before entering into all the other sorts of deliverable, and one at the beginning of the planning phase. If you work according to agile methodologies, it's different. Alignment sessions are shorter, but they occur at the beginning of every sprint. Another example I want to show you is scaling. You might say, yes, this works for one team, but we have hundreds of teams. Well, it scales, but it's a different approach. Scaling at the team level by maximizing the fact of being on the same page and mutual understanding and aligning. We present a process in high impact tools for teams where we align in sub-teams, then we present, there is a consolidation phase, and then management decides, and then information comes back. Here is an example. I'm going to play, this is a major consultancy firm. You have here approximately 10 or 15 teams aligning. These are managers discussing a strategic initiative, and you can hear the energy level. These are crucial moments when you launch strategic initiatives, especially double-digit in millions, because nothing equals a good start. So if you put the right people in the room together to align first, you're just, you're just like leaving apart a lot of problems that could easily be avoided from the beginning. Another example of using the team alignment map at a large scale is to de-silo the organization, so facilitate collaboration among functions. And here there are, for example, 2 ways of using it. One, you have leadership assigning a joint mission to different teams and also assigning some shared objectives. And then the teams, they perform the forward pass and the backward pass, and they present to each other, and they negotiate with leadership the execution phase. Also, it's very good from team to team. Another way of doing is if there are dependencies between teams, team can perform a team alignment map, and they can have some shared resources, some shared objectives, and so on. And here, from team to team, I'm going to show you a picture of what it looks like after. There is often a negotiation about resources. I don't have enough mandates, or I don't have enough budget, and so on. And what we do in this case to facilitate team-to-team negotiation is set up some negotiation criteria early in the process, so that it's not my opinion against your opinion. And that's what it looks like. Here it's the same set of managers, but this time discussing and aligning from team to team, each doing their alignment. and presenting to other and managing and aligning on the dependencies. One last usage mode of the team alignment map. The team alignment map can be used as a qualitative KPI to measure the alignment in the team. And that is very relevant for us. We measure that in academic studies, that perception gaps predict execution problems later. So the more aligned we are, the more on the same page, the better the execution of our project will be and our collaboration. So all we do is draw 4 simple sliders in the columns. So in joint objectives, we had from unclear to clear, joint commitments from implicit to explicit, joint resources from missing to available, and joint risks from underestimated to under control. And people vote with a post-it note their personal perception. So for example, I might think that objectives are clear, that commitments are unclear, that resources are available, and that risks are underestimated. And another person might vote another thing. And that becomes a neutral visual mirror of the level of alignment in the team. So there are different ways of interpreting this, but to make it, we don't have enough time to go into that, but easily, just like if the votes are at the top from most of the participants, the project is on a good trajectory because the team perceives they're aligned. If there are perception gaps, this is how we repair that. First, we vote. Then we look at the dispersion of votes. If votes are below in the bottom part, or if there is too much dispersion between the votes, then we have a repair conversation. And we just discuss what makes you think that roles are clear, because for me they're unclear, and so on. And that gives us a chance to align even further. So here is another example. There were 400 people, so it was not possible to do it physically with post-it notes. So this was measured using an application, simple 4 sliders, strategic initiative, offshoring development around the world. And here is the CEO asking his top management, do you believe your teams are in an optimal position to contribute to this strategic initiative? And the result was a lot of dispersion in the votes. It took courage to ask that question, but that saved the program because budget has been not spent. Teams could align further following the example I mentioned earlier. And the decision to run the project and the initiative in global was taken only when a sufficient level of alignment has been estimated by everyone. Okay, so this is the team alignment map, a tool to boost the efficiency in our execution of our collective work. I'm going to show you another very important tool we present in the book. It's called the team contract. This is a rapid session to define and agree together on the team rules and behaviors. So of course, now we work in cross-functional teams, we work in diverse teams. That is amazing for creativity, but it also is opportunities for friction because we see things differently. We come from different backgrounds, we have different languages, maybe we have different ways of working. We realize that it's very important that we as a team, especially if newly assembled, take the time to define and agree together on some rules of the game by answering these 2 questions. What are the rules and behaviors that we want to abide by in our team? And as individuals, that's the second part, do we have preferences to work in a certain way? Quick sessions where we agree on what is okay and what is not in our team, and we create a moral contract between us that is again a way of stop presupposing, making things visually out there so that they can enter in the common ground of the team. And the value of that exercise is important in terms of so-called psychological safety. Psychological safety is the belief that our team, it's a personal belief that my team is a safe place for taking risks. That if I speak up, I will not be punished, humiliated, and so on. This is based on the amazing work by Amy Edmondson. And psychological safety is greatly enhanced when the rules of the game between us are understood beforehand. And it's not a trade-off. It's not like a trade-off between being nice and doing this work on behaviors or hitting the deadlines when we need to hit them. No, it's not a trade-off. Actually, it's a two-dimension system where psychological safety, we need both. We need to be clear on performance standards, on the activities. We also need to feel we are safe in the team to take risks and enter the learning zone. And that's where collective learning and complex problem solving, hence innovating, is triggered in the team. If you're low in one of these two dimensions, you see you enter into zones that do not deliver collective innovation as we describe it. So these are the tools we presented. I'm going to switch online now. The objectives on going online together now are twofold. One, I want to show you how this replicates easily online and actually translates, not replicate, adapts, and is suitable for online work. And I'd like us all together to experience a team contract on a Miro board, and I'm going to invite you there. So a quick word about these generic whiteboards, about these digital whiteboards. You have generic that presents many sorts of templates, but if you're in strategy, you might want to prefer the Strategizer app. If you have to describe, for example, user journeys, go for Smaply. If you design applications, maybe go for InVision. There are multiple levels of apps here. Today we go in Miro, and I'm going to share the link in Zoom's chat. Please use Google Chrome. Copy paste that link into Chrome. Other browsers, we experience problems. You don't need to register. It's a publicly available board, so remain as guests. I'll do a quick demo, and then we experiment together creating a team contract. Now, if you're unfamiliar with these boards, just look at the Zoom screen. I will share it. It's not going to be long, and it will give you a real sense of what, in our opinion, is closest to being physically present in the same room. Okay, so this is the link.
It's in the chat window, right? So you don't have to type it. You can just click in the chat window.
Yeah. Chat. Where is it's here.
I posted it, Stefano.
You posted? Okay, I couldn't. Opla. Okay, so let's meet on Miro now. Okay. So we have already, wow, 35 participants have joined already. So you can navigate and look around a little bit. If you're unfamiliar, just here in the lower corner, you see there is that little square that helps you navigate in the board. And if you want to zoom on a particular area, you have a plus and minus arrow. And on the left, if you want to add post-it notes, sticky notes, this is the button. Okay, so when we run alignment sessions, so again, this is typically at the beginning of a project or at the beginning of a sprint. Everyone in Zoom or Microsoft Teams, of course, the session is prepared. Everything is time boxed. Objectives are presented. There is a schedule, some instructions on how to use the board, and a quick recap for the team on how to run a team alignment map session, an example of a team contract, and another example of the two tools working together. That takes about 10 minutes. Once everyone is onboarded, we move to the work areas. So if we have only one team, it's easy. We all meet here. And let me zoom so that it becomes clearer. Okay. So if we have only one team, we perform a forward pass on the team alignment map in 20 minutes. And then we take 10 minutes to refine and do the backward pass. We also spend 10 minutes defining the team contract together. If you have multiple teams, magnificent. We have breakout rooms. Just create breakout rooms, ideally 5, 6 people per breakout room. And you can add as many teams as you want. The maximum I had simultaneously is approximately 200 people. It's impressive to see, but each team has a dedicated space and a dedicated room. Then, of course, depending on the number of teams, the challenge is consolidation and presentation. But let's agree that in this case, we have only 3 teams. So at the end of the co-planning phase and the description of the team contract, each team is allowed to present to the other teams between 2 to 5 minutes, depending on the complexity. And then the session is closed by a wrap-up. What went well, typical retrospective, what needs improvement. But the board remains open, and 1 or 2 or 3 people, are at least 1 person per team, is asked to contribute to the consolidation team. And the consolidation team will, of course, consolidate what is visible here into a joint team alignment map and team contract. And from there, we come back to the team. The whole participants can come at any time, see the consolidation in progress. And once this consolidation is validated, we can move, for example, to a Kanban board or start working on other files, project charters, project plans, you name it. So this is how we run quick alignment sessions to make sure that we're on the same page before starting projects. Now, I like all of us, so I'm going to invite all the participants in the Miro board to join me on this section called Team Contract. So there is a button here called Bring Everyone to Me. So you should all see the team contract now. And we're going to simulate a typical team contract session. So for us, this is our challenge in 2 minutes. I'll put some music. And in 2 minutes, the team is us, the Brightline webinar participants. And our mission is, what are our guidelines to run effective remote meetings if we had to run several remote meetings? So what do you recommend? What are the rules and behaviors that we want to abide by to run effective remote meetings? And as individuals, do you have preferences to work in a certain way? There are post-its that are ready here. You can type in directly, or if you want to add your own post-its, you click there and you can add them here. So 2 minutes, and we establish our team contract for working.
Swiss one, be
Okay.
late, not be late. That's a good one. I always like that.
5 seconds. 3, 2, 1. Okay. Thank you so much for participating. Okay, let's have a quick look of what we have here. So apparently someone thinks that it's not a good idea to love other team members. Nice one. However, if we go in, have a look at what's inside, establish guidelines and principle, excellent ways of collaborating online, listen to new ideas, come prepared, super important one, be fully present. Yes, and just to mention about like this fact of being fully present, you dramatically increase the presence when things are prepared and time boxed, and people really perceive like there is a momentum. Come prepared, respect each other, explain exercise with an example. I just show you exactly that's how I proceed. Support and welcome another's contribution. Do not disregard, smile, allow everyone to talk, contribute. Good background music, thank you so much. And let's see quickly what we have out. So keep the camera off, offer no guidance, try to understand the client mood, and be late. Okay, so this is what it looks like online. Works for one team, 10 teams, but if you have to enter into these consolidation phases, if you want to go further than that. I'm going after this webinar to clean this a little bit and send it to Javnika so that she can share it with the participants. This is what we created today during our webinar. So I'm going to leave the board open for those of you who want to continue to have a look at it, and I hand it over to Alex.
Okay, thanks Stefano for walking us through this and giving us some very, practical doing. It was really cool. And again, I'm just going to emphasize maybe a little bit in the wrap up, how powerful it is to use visual tools. And that's why we took Stefano on board as an author, to add these visual tools in the execution space. Now, just very quickly, this whole world has changed, right, with the pandemic. And there's this funny joke going around, where people ask, who actually made digital transformation happen? Is it the CEO? Is it the chief technology officer? Or is it, COVID-19? And of course, everybody clicks on COVID-19. There will be a moment where we go back to physical and on-site, but I think that the reality is that the transformation has been pretty substantial, so we're going to go towards hybrid. And on-site is always the best, but it also has a huge cost, like just in travel and coordination, but also environmental. And now remote, works pretty fine, but it doesn't work for everything. So you have to make a clear choice where on-site is really required and where remote is really required. Again, on-site always wins if you just look at the outcome from a team alignment perspective. But if you look at the full total cost, travel, waiting at the airport, social costs because you don't see your families, and so on-site might not always be best. So you have to figure out the hybrid, what's going to work best. Then this is a key one that, I really think people don't realize as much. These digital platforms, these boards, really don't just structure your thinking, but they create immense alignment. And we focus today specifically on team alignment, but it's all kind of alignments, right? It's the strategy, it's working on a business model. And this is crucial, and I still think people underestimate it. And Stefan, I'm sure you still see meetings where people just go on Zoom and then it's a talk shop, not a workshop, right? Where everybody talks. We're not structured enough, we're not capturing it visually. So cognitively, there's no chance you can increase a shared understanding, right? It's like it blows your head off. So this, kind of thing we underestimate, this visual alignment, is actually giganormous, right? So the point here is that you combine these two things. And, case in point, we don't just do this with clients. If you take Strategizer, we put them through a whole innovation journey on the Strategizer platform. We also apply this for every single internal meeting. And I had to drop off of our company call. So we have people around the world, like in every continent except for Antarctica. So we work like this all the time. And it's not just because we want to use our own tools, it's because the alignment increases. So here you got a picture of our portfolio map, actually where we look at our project portfolio as a company, and we align on this again and again and again. And we have a company call, this is a weekly, we have a company call every month where we do team alignment, culture alignment, and we use these kinds of tools, and other tools are beyond the team alignment. So it's crucial, 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 crucial. Now, if you look at this, alignment in terms of hybrid infrastructure, it is going to, boost another change, I would say, when we kind of go back to the office. I just listened to a Clubhouse session where you had somebody in Israel. They're actually, back to normal almost because everybody was vaccinated. Not really the case yet in Switzerland where Stefano and I are. But you'll see, rooms where digital becomes more key, right? And of course, we all know these rooms, and they weren't used. We have these great things, these visual boards, but you'll have these mixed meetings. Will become a lot more kind of common sense. Everybody's going to do it because now we're a lot more at ease. But again, it's not just showing those heads up there. It's the fact that you have, yes, people's heads, but you also have the visual tools. And if you don't have the visual tools, you're not really working in a modern way. So Stefano, have you already seen this kind of boost happening, this hybrid thing? I mean, we're still in the pandemic. We're kind of slowly getting out of that, but I'm sure you have these conversations. So just quick insight, the teams that you're talking to, are they starting to prepare for this back to the office, but hybrid mode?
Definitely in the corporate world, at least the companies I'm working with, yes, most have significant initiatives. And that is explained by, of course, in the corporate world, if you look at the statistics of adoption of Microsoft Teams, Microsoft Teams is creating a kind of unified environment for communications, and its growth rate is superior to Zoom. So that is a kind of good indicator that companies are moving fast. I also heard, I've seen that for Italy only, sorry about the limited scope, but like 70% of companies, there has been a report, are investing today in a remote teamwork infrastructure for the reason that we don't know where the cursor will be for every team, for every company. So there is the power of on-site, there is the benefits of working remotely, but we don't know at the team level where it's going to, this mix is going to, so you have to be equipped for both.
Yeah, and a quick fix, right? We might always think expensive infrastructure. One that we have here is, screens, right? So, doing this kind of visual work on a small laptop is very, very painful. Having big screens, if you are working from home, let's say 2 days or 3 days or 100%, screens are really, really, really important. Now, there is one question I'm going to throw over to you in a sec from Pavel in the chat, Stefano, so you can have a look. But I do want to just kind of wrap up the content side with two big mistakes that we see that are relatively easy to avoid. And it's just like a habit, right? So starting new projects with email, chat, SMS, or even, trying to manage conflict in projects with email, chat, SMS, it doesn't work. And I just had a case today at my own organization where it kind of escalated because nobody picked up, a Zoom call. Like, you don't pick up the phone anymore, but just, put on a Zoom call or Teams or whatever you're using. That's an easy, avoidable mistake, right? But you definitely don't start projects like this. Just maybe in one sentence, you've seen this happen, right, Stefano?
Oh, yes, I've seen this happen a lot. And I remember, do we have time for another example? I remember that head of a digital department calling me and asking me, Stefano, please help me understand why in my portfolio of 120 projects, they're all late and over budget. And just think, what would you do? Would you do a survey, do an inquiry, etc.? Actually, now that we've been discussing this notion of alignment, the question I asked him is, because this is a distributed organization, is could I participate to one project meeting? And he responded, what meeting? So they were mostly coordinating using, for those of you who are familiar, through HipChat. So HipChat is the chat solution of Atlassian. So projects were starting, being every information exchanged. And if you do that, you put yourself into trouble by design, because at the beginning, whenever we enter into something new, that's when we need high bandwidth. And asynchronous channels like email, chat, and SMS have limited bandwidth. So there is not enough opportunity to align there.
Yeah. And it's a big thing, right? I mean, even synchronous, right? Chat is a big thing. And chat is good for certain tasks, but it can be a disaster for others. So just jumping on a Zoom call is the right thing to do in certain circumstances. Okay, second big mistake is what we just kind of pointed to, using synchronous virtual meetings for updates. Oh, we're going to go through the list of things in a meeting, and meeting time is really precious and expensive. I can tell you, just from we have time zones that are terrible between the teams. If you actually do the updates in something like Loom, get another tool, but just watch those videos. I think that's even better than if you write an email. Those things are just habits, right? Rituals that we don't do enough yet. Okay, so last just piece here, as I just hinted, meeting time is precious. So when you have meetings, prepare them well. I mean, seriously, and it sounds really trivial, but what I mean with this is you pick the right tools, you structure the session and the flow of the session, and you make very clear time boxing what needs to be done at what stage with which tool. And that's how you actually, solve complex problems, because you need that interaction. Everything else on the right-hand side, changes, notifications, updates, that does not have to be done in meetings. And that would mean also that most of the boring meetings are going to disappear. Okay, Stefano, I'm going to just throw it to, I think this is an important question that came up. I think Tahiro, can you give us 1 second to address that question, or I'll leave it up to you, Tahiro, or to wrap it up?
Alex, please go ahead. Go ahead.
So we had this question, if it does escalate, right, in the voting process, and there is no alignment, right? You said you saw those 200 people voting. What would you actually do? So it's an interesting one, right? Because we then see the teams are misaligned. What do you do in a situation like that? And I think very quick answer so we can wrap up almost on
very, very quickly. So the larger and the more cross-functional the initiative, the higher the sponsor should be. That's the shortest answer I can give. Because comes a moment if the dispersion is too high, or the perception gaps are too high among the different teams, too big, sorry, then you need an arbitration level. And I always have that sentence in mind, like, the more cross-functional the initiative, the higher the sponsor, the more cross-functional. So you always need the next level.
And you would actually probably go back, right, to create that alignment and not move ahead.
Oh, I did it. And I do it. So comes a moment where you have maybe 50 people in the room, and I stop and I ask the managers to call their boss. And now, because I know this might occur, I try to embed that in the workshop itself. So there is some dedicated time with the top executive sponsor that is sometimes a very C-level person that is it's difficult to have their time, but we make it sure that we have some time in case of trouble.
Great. I'll hand it over to Tahiro. Sorry, we weren't on Swiss time, but thanks for hosting us.
It's been amazing. It's been amazing. And I could see people interacting with Interface when you went live. And the content here is great. I mean, especially for, as you were saying, as we will come out of the crisis, I hope in a much stronger position, but with new ways of working. So we hope that people will be embracing these new ways of working, hybrid ways of working, and getting the engagement with the team, so that when it comes to transformation and everything, they can be more successful. So thank you so much, Alex. Thank you, Stefano. And of course, thank you, Daniela and Yavnika, for making this happen. What I need to add is the recording, this session has been recorded, so the recording will be made available through YouTube channels. And of course, at the end of the day, the goals that we have, be it the connection with Alex, be it with Stefano, we want organization to be successful. And we hope this could be helping in that direction. So until then, we'll say until next time. So we'll be back next month for another webinar. Take care wherever you are. Thank you so much.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, everyone, for having us. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.